This is Gemar Nedarim Daf Chof Gimel. We pick it up in the bottom of Chof Beis Amid Beis, in the middle of all these lengthy stories in which we are figuring out different ways of being matir Nedarim, creating interesting psachim, interesting reasons why one would want to not have made the neder, etc. So we pick it up on Chof Beis Amid Beis, Chof Beis Amid Beis, 2 lines from the bottom. Rav Shimon Berebi Havalei Nidra. Rav Shimon Berebi had a neder lemishra that he wanted to be making mutter to annul the neder. So Aslik made the Rabbanan. He came in front of the Rabbanan. Amrulei, the Rabbanan said to him, did you make a neder with this intent? Amar in, he said, yeah. Adai dahachi in. Kama zimnin. So the Rabbanan kept on keep on trying different ways of creating the Pesach, and each and every way, Rav Shimon Berebi said, no, I had that in mind. That cannot be a Pesach, and that cannot be a Pesach. And it seemed that all hope was lost. V'havei mitztayer Rabbanan mishimsha letula mitumla l'shimsha. And the Rabbanan were being mitztayer. The Rabbanan were literally in pain. What does it mean that they were in pain? It meant that they were trying very difficultly to annul this vow. And what does that mean? That means that because they were going back and forth, trying to find different ways to find a Pesach. We skipped the parentheses. And Amar Le, and finally, Amar Le, Batnis, Breida Abashal ben Batnis. So Batnis, the son of Abashal ben Batnis, is watching this whole story, and he's seeing the Rabbanan making themselves mishuga back and forth. Did you have this in mind? Did you have that in mind? And nothing's working. Mi nadarta. And finally, Batnis says to Rav Shimon Berebi, Mi nadarta adaita de mitzayir Rabbanan. Look at that one. That's as they call it, a Gemara cup. Did you have in mind that you might make the Rabbanan mishuga when you made the neder? Did you have in mind that you would make the Rabbanan go mitula l'shimsha, mishimsha l'tula, from shade to sun, and sun to shade? Amar loy. And there, finally, they found the Pesach. And finally, Rav Shimon Berebi says, you're right, that I did not have in mind. And v'shar yua. And based upon that, they annulled the neder. So we're seeing over here the level of invention that is necessary, the novelty, the chaps, the halachic loopholes that are allowed to be employed in order to get rid of the Nedarim. Continues the Gemara of Shmuel bar Rav Yosi. Another story. Rav Shmuel bar Rav Yosi had a neder that he wanted to annul. Also, like I made the Rabbanan Amrulei, Nadarta dahachi. Do you have this in mind, Amruluin? He said yes. Nadarta dahachi Amruluin. Again, so we have another story that the person that made the neder seemingly had all these things in mind, and therefore we can't find a Pesach. We can't find a reason to annul, to say that you didn't have this in mind, and therefore make the neder mutter. So Kama Zimnin, they went through this process many times, and they can't find a way to be mekel. But given the Chazadavi Katsara, and then we know what happened. They saw a certain laundryman is watching this exchange. And again, he's watching the Rabbanan be made insane to create this Pesach for the net. The Mitzayir Rabbanan, that the Rabbanan are unenjoying this story. Machyei be'ochla. So the laundryman picks up a sprinkler, picks up some laundry tool, and smashes Rav Yishmael over the head with this tool. The katsari, the laundryman's utensil. And Amar, so finally, Rav Yishmael says, that I never had in mind. I had in mind everything else you said to me. But for the fact that this guy's going to come over and smash me over the head and said, what are you doing? That I never had in mind. And Vesharya Linnavshei, and they made the neder mutter for himself. So let's just comment for a moment. We had a similar lashon in the Gemara yesterday, in which we said that he annulled it for himself. So let's just go all the way up in the Ran, 2 lines from the top. The Ran comments on the first time we saw this Pasal Pischal and Avshei, and the Ran says, let's be careful. It doesn't mean that he really annulled it for himself. Because we learned the Gemara Chagigol Yachal Devarai, and we darsh the pasuk Hu Einai Meichel El Shematza Pesach Sheyachal Liyas Niter Loi. It means that he made a Pesach, that he was able to Meichel on the Neder, and the Ran said, so it's going to be a similar story over here. Again, it doesn't mean you never let it know the vow by yourself, but he found a Pesach for himself. Continues the Gemara, 5 lines from the white lines. Chav Gimel Amir Aleph. Amar le Rav Achami Difti l'Ravina. So Rav Achami Difti says to Ravina, Hi Noiladu. This is Noilad. No, this is not the halachic concern of Noilad, like we know in Hilchas Shabbos, something that's created on its own is muksa, but it's very similar. It's a Noilad, meaning it's a creation onto its own. Meaning, explains the Gemara, 4 lines to the white lines, this entity that he never had in mind that the laundryman is going to hit him, that is something new. Meaning every Pesach we say, did you have this in mind when you made the Neder? Did you know about this circumstance, etc.? But this entity was right now. This is something that came into the world right now. V'tanina, and we learned in the Mishnah, Ein a paischin leibin noilad. You're not allowed to use a newfound creation, a noilad, in the Pesach of your Neder. Amar le, Ravina responds, Hai lav noiladu. Nope, it's not true. This is not a new creation. What do you mean? Explains the Gemara, Dishchichi apikuri dimitei rabbanan, that pikarsim would often make the rabbanan crazy. The laundryman was obviously the one who was always the defender of the rabbanan, and therefore this is not an unheard of occurrence. Continues the Gemara with another story. Divisu d'Abaya. The wife of Abaya, Havle Hai Brata, had a daughter, and Abaya and his wife got into a disagreement. This, many hopefully will perhaps remember, hopefully is at least familiar. We learned this way back when, in Gemara and Brachas. Hu Amar, Abaya says, L'Krivai, I'm going to want to marry your daughter off to my relatives. He Amra, L'Krivai, no, to my relatives. Amar. So Abaya said, Amar lo, Abaya says his wife, Tistri Anosi Aloch, I Avras Atatoi. If you go and are over my words, and you marry this girl to your relatives, I'm making a neder not to have enough from you. And lo and behold, she goes, and Abaya's wife does just that. She goes, and I'm sorry, that was part of the neder. One more time. That was the neder of Abaya. And then, lo and behold, and she goes and she marries to her relatives. So Rav Yosef, listen to this one. If you would have known that your wife would have actually did what you told her not to do, and married to her relatives, would you have made an neder? And of course, Abaya says, Amar Loi. No, Vishario, Rav Yosef. And Rav Yosef allowed to be makel on the neder. So now, let's understand, this is what we'd call perhaps the reason or of the sorts that Abaya only made this neder because he never actually thought his wife would do such a blasphemous thing and not listen to him. Says the Gemara, 1 second, is this a way to be makel? Answers the Gemara in yes. There was someone who made a neder from his wife going up to Eile Regel va'avar al daitai, and she went va'alsa l'regel b'olav nei Rav Yosi amar lo ilo yadas. If ilu ayisa yodeh, if you would have known shavars al daitach va'ile regel klom adartu would made the neder amar lo v'tiru Rav Yosi. So you already see a precedence for such a situation, and therefore, similarly in this case of Abaya, we're able to make on the neder based on the fact he never actually thought his wife would violate his words and go and marry off the daughter to that person. Continues the Gemara with the Mishnah on the bottom of Chav Gimel Amud Aleph. Rav Elazar ben Yaakov Omer says, Rav Elazar ben Yaakov, Af haroitze lahadir es chaveiro, even one who wants to make a neder against his friend, you want your friend to eat with you, so you're going to make a neder that you have to eat with me. Yoimar loy. So Yoimar, the Bach takes out the word loy and makes a lot more sense. So Yoimar, you should say, Kol neder shani asid lidar. Now we're getting to new world. Any neder that I'm going to make in the future, who batal is batal right now. Neder says the Mishnah, but he has to know this when he makes the neder. So now we have a new creation. Someone preempts. Someone knows he's going to make a neder in the future, and he knows he's not going to want it to be a real neder. So what should he do? Says the Mishnah, he should prior say any neder that I'm going to make is not a good neder. And of course, everyone right now is having in mind and is thinking back to Hataras Nedarim and Erev Rosh Hashanah, that final paragraph that we say, in which we are Meiser Maida. We get up and we say anything we do in the future should not be an neder, which is our point of discussion for today. But ask the Gemara on this din of Rav Elazar ben Yaakov of the Mishnah. If he says any neder that I'm going to make should be batal, says the Gemara, the guy knows, his friend knows, and therefore he's not going to come. Meaning, he's going to know that the whole neder is a joke. Because before making the neder, he got up and he made this loud announcement that, by the way, any neder that I'm going to make in the future is nothing. So ask the Gemara, what's the point? If any neder is going to be nothing, and the guy knows about it, then seemingly there is no purpose. Explains the Gemara as we turn over to Chav Gimel Amid Beis, the classical Chasurei Mechsra V'Hachi Ketani. We got to insert a few extra words into the Mishnah. Says the Gemara, explaining the Mishnah on the top line of Chav Gimel Amid Beis. Ha'roit says she'ochel etzloi chaveir. If someone wants his friend to eat with him, umisari v'boy, and his friend is saying no again and again and again, and you want him to come finally tiba you, umadiroi, and you make a neder against your friend, nidre zrizinhu. The din is such a neder does not have a validity. Such a neder was only made to be mazaris, to coax, to push the guy to come, and there is no power to the neder. Continues. Now this is case number 2 of the Mishnah. Someone wants the Nedarim not to have any power. Kol Hashana, the entire year. What should he do? Yamoy b'Rosh Hashanah. Get up on Rosh Hashanah. But that only works. Ubilvad she'zocher b'shas haneder. It's only going to work provided that he remembers at the time of the neder. So says the Gemara, really there's 2 dinim. Din number 1 is any time you make a neder against your friend to come be with you, that's neder's reason, as we learned a few days ago, and therefore that neder has no validity. Number 2 is if you are nervous, everyone sitting here learning Nedarim is getting nervous, every word that they say, so you want to get rid of all Nedarim. So in Rosh Hashanah, you get up and you say, anything I'm going to say in the future is batal. But, ends the Mishnah with an interesting line, it only works if you're zocher b'shas neder. If you remembered about it at the time of the neder. And on that last line, ask the Gemara, 1 second. I don't understand. Zocher, if he remembers that he made the stipulation, he remembers sitting here today on November 16th, he remembers that back by Rosh Hashanah I made a stipulation that any neder I make is null and void. And what? He goes and he makes the neder anyways. Akra l'tanaye, v'kayim le'nidre. By going and making the neder with the mindset, I had this condition that all my neder should be null and void. And either way I'm making a neder. What does that show? That shows that what is he doing? He's getting rid of his tanai, he's getting rid of his condition, and he's actually going and making a proper neder. So what does it mean? Ubelvad sheyeh zocher b'shas neder. Says the Gemara, 2 answers, and with these 2 answers we're going to call it a day. First, Amar Abayo, says Abayo, Tini, change the wording in the Mishnah. Tini, you should learn. Ubelvad, I do not know what just happened. Apologies, our highlighting just turned into a bubble. One more time, there it is. Amar Abaye Tini, Ubelvad Okay, classical answer. Switch it up, throw a loy in, throw a no in, and everything's good. Says Abaye, if you make this stipulation in Rosh Hashanah like we do, and then at some later time throughout the year you're not cognizant and you make a neder, great, it works. Because you were not a zacher at the time of the neder, and therefore you made a neder without any thought. So now your tanai, your stipulation, your preconceived notion you made in Rosh Hashanah comes and wipes away that neder. Answer number one of Abaye. Very simple. Rava says a little bit more complicated. La'ilam can read a makar. Says Rava, don't start editing the Mishnah. Don't start throwing lois in the Mishnah. Really, like we learned to the Mishnah, means that you thought about it when you made the neder. But the case is that he made a tanai in Rosh Hashanah. But the Rava changes the case slightly. He doesn't know. He remembers that he made a tanai that the Nedarim should not be effective, but he doesn't know what the Nedarim were. What does this mean? So the Ran explains that he made a tanai that any neder against eating food should be batal. But he doesn't remember what was that food. Was that food bread? Was that food wine? Was that food Coke? Was that food Pepsi? So he doesn't remember the variables, the details of the neder. And then what happens? And now, throughout the year, he goes and he makes a neder, something that might have been in tonight. So it could be that he made it tonight that any time I make a neder about Coke, it's null and void. And then later on in the year, he makes a neder. But he doesn't remember, was Coke that item in the Tanai or was it Pepsi? So says the Gemara, now this is the din of our Mishnah. If he remembers at the time of the neder, remembers that he has this Tanai, he has this stipulation hanging in the air. And he says, even though I have some sort of Tanai, I don't remember which one it is, and yet I'm making a neder, nodre less Pei mishasha. Then the neder that he's making has no substance. Why? Because he's making the neder al das harishayna. He's making the neder that whatever that original tonight was, I want that now. I don't remember if it was Coke or Pepsi. I'm making a neder now on Coke, and therefore I want that original tonight to work now, meaning I want it to work, and therefore the neder is null and void like his original condition. But then the Tanai is Oiker V'kayim L'nidri. So it is a little bit of a, I don't want to call it backwards, but it's a little bit of a counterintuitive din. Rava is saying that if you remember, and either way you put it into the neder, that means you're putting the Tanai into the neder, and that means the neder is null and void, if not, not. And we conclude that Rav Huna bar Chanina Savar L'midrash Abipirka. Rav Huna bar Chanina thought he should get up and he should announce this is what everyone should do. But Amar le Rava Tana Kamistayim Las Tumei Kidei Shayin Bakal Sveish Ben Nedarim. I don't understand, says Rava. Our Tana wrote it in a very obscure way. It wasn't just that the Mishnah was unclear. Says Rava, the Tana of the Mishnah did this purposely. So not everyone should know about this. They don't want everyone to be very lenient and lax in the Nedarim V'at, the Darshan Slei B'Pirka, and you, Rav Huna, are going out and darshing in the public, and therefore said, Rava, you should not do such. And that is the conclusion, the two pshitas of learning of the Mishnah of Abaye and Rava. I'll pick it up from the next Shaila and the next Shir, B'siyata Dishmayo.